Cash-a-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
I'm the bad cop, and for Daryl W4 and special guest Stefan of June 17, we look forward to this episode's featuring GCDroid, a caching app for, are you ready? Are you all sitting down? Android. So, we'll have some feedback from the last episode, a winner of this week's Cache Advance certificate, and another question for a prize from coinsandpins.com to be awarded on next week's show. All that on this, the 153rd episode of the GeoGearHeads. I hope we can get it all in. Daryl, where should we start?
Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to get it all in, and we're going to start with last week's question, which was the name of the company creating the Android OS before it was acquired by Google. So for that answer, and our winner this week, I'm going to turn to my right, where I have Stefan of June 17, the developer of GCDroid, joining me live from my studio. So welcome, Stefan.
Thanks for having me on the show. The answer is Android Inc. And Daryl told me that only a dozen of GeoGearHeads actually wrote in with the correct answer, and of those, Kitty Catch was drawn as the winner.
So congrats, Kitty Catch. She emailed me that she's already converted that $10 Cache Advance gift certificate into an order from some supplies. So thank you, Cache Advance, for that prize. Make sure to stick with us through the end of the show, and we'll have another question, much easier, I hope, for you to hopefully win another prize from coinsandpins.com.
Daryl, you know I like the tougher questions. I
know,
easy
but
ones.
I figured this week I'd go for something easier, and it's a question I want to know the answer to.
Well, there you go. Hey, but before we get to that, because, that's all the way at the end of the show, so you're going to have to listen all the way through. We've got email feedback from Krista and Jeff. So just a quick note about the Alberta Brass Cap cache that you talked about in the last episode. As LandMonkey mentioned, it's a traveling virtual cache that is actively managed by the CO, who has a database of all the survey markers in Alberta. From time to time, he moves the current coordinates to another brass cap. Even though there is a current cap displayed as the current coordinates on the gc.com page, all previous caps are still loggable. Oh, that's really interesting. There's a non-geocaching.com site with a GPX of all the previous markers that can be loaded into GPSRs. The cap has a unique identifier that has to be emailed to the CO to prove that you found it. And so far, it has 16,744 finds. In the Calgary area, we also have a traveling mystery cache called Stash and Dash. That's GCA0D6. The cache is supposed to be moved from city park to city park within the city boundaries. The key is that if you pick it up, you leave flagging in the location so future finders will know that the cache has been found and removed. Both of these caches are grandfathered in, and the community does its best to ensure they keep going.
I really like the idea of that flagging. That would make traveling caches a lot more viable.
I love that idea because, you get there and you go, is it gone? Has it been moved? Or I just can't find it. So I like
Meanwhile, I like the idea of that brass cap one because it kind of brings benchmarking in as a findable geocache, but at the same time, wow, that's an awful lot of markers to be logging as one individual cache.
Yeah, exactly. So you can, if I read that right, and if I understand it right, you can log that find if you go to any of those brass caps or those survey markers and email the cache owner the appropriate information off of it.
Yeah, that's the way I read that too.
Yeah,
so
that seems interesting.
Kind of interesting, but yeah, I just don't know about finding that thing and then finding it somewhere else again. I certainly wouldn't want to do 2 logs on it myself, but something like that, I'd be tempted to go and find it every time it moves.
Interesting, yeah. But Alberta's a pretty big territory to be driving around to find a cache that could be moving.
That it is. So let's move on to Tentman10's email. Hi guys, thanks for posing my question to your listeners. I've had a look at bbbike.org, but can't easily see how it works and can't find Malawi in the list of countries. Help! Anyway, yes, you pronounced my caching name correctly. Sonny and Sandy call me Tentament or Tentamount. No, I'm not Andy 2 tenths right, like Mighty Python's Arthur 2 Jackson. In fact, I have 3 tenths. All right, so Chris, I think we need to call him Andy 3 tenths right.
There we go.
Okay, well, let's continue with Andy.
I'm just going to go with
right.
3 tenths.
3 tenths? Okay, fine.
It's, that's the past tense, the present tense, and the future tense, all 3 tenths.
Oh, there you go. Well, he does go on to talk about his past tense. When I signed up to geocaching.com back in 2006, I wanted to be just Tent Man for my love of camping, but someone already had that account name, so I just added another tent on the end. My caching buddies, like Pete and Tracy of the Amazon's podcast show, just call me Tenty. Interesting. I think I like 3 tenths better. Sadly, you missed out on the FTF for my Malawi Earth cache. Someone logged it the day after I emailed you. It was about 48 hours short of becoming a resuscitator cache, which I'm not even familiar with that term. Chris, have you heard that one yet?
Not at all. If a cache isn't found in a certain time, an Earth cache isn't, somebody doesn't log it as, the first to find it in a certain amount of time, does it eventually fall off, saying that it's not findable?
I don't think so.
I know that's not true of regular caches, but is that true of an Earth cache? I don't know. I've never heard that term.
See, I'm wondering if that's just the forgotten caches that we refer to over here. Stefan, have you heard anything about the term?
No, actually, I never heard about that.
Okay.
First time.
All right. So, hey, it's a new term for us.
Time forgot.
And hey, write in and let us know what that actually means. I'm thinking it's just the forgotten caches. Anyway, so before it had even been logged once, I figured that leaving an Earth cache over there would be cool, as it meant I could have a cache there without worrying about the maintenance. As it features the red soil, which can pretty much be found all over the sub-Saharan Africa, it's not exactly a feature that's going to go missing. In fact, I managed legitimately to complete an Earth cache in Zimbabwe without setting foot in the country. It was at Victoria Falls, which straddles the Zambia-Zimbabwe border, and I did it from the Zambia, sorry for that, guys, side, even though ground zero is on the Zimbabwe side. Man, I have problems with those African names.
Zimbabwe.
Another issue this raised for me was souvenirs. I'd hoped that I'd get souvenirs in Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe on my visit, but I was shocked to see that there wasn't one. There isn't a single souvenir for the whole of the massive continent of Africa. Some countries, such as the U.S., have one for each area and state, although I can understand this as caching originated there. But so does Ireland and a few other countries, but why not Africa? I hear that the Groundspeak guys are bringing out some new ones. Do you guys know any more about this, or which countries are likely to get a souvenir? Anyway, enough for me. Love the show.
Well, I don't know if Groundspeak or geocaching.com has released a schedule of when the artwork or the souvenirs will be released for each one of the countries. I know they're working on it. They tend to work with the countries that have the most caches first. Obviously, it makes sense. So
yeah, I recall it being something about most caches or most logs.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that Africa is not a hotbed for caching, and there are some other countries and regions that have a little bit more popularity that they are planning to bring out sooner.
And I know it is the desire of geocaching.com to have a souvenir for every country, so it may be coming down the road. So, with that said, let's go on to another email from our friend and sometimes co-host, DeBear. Just a quick point from Tentman Tent, who wanted to make a map from his track logs gathered in Malawi. Hey, look at this. See, we have GeoGearHeads helping GeoGearHeads. We're a real community. DeBear goes on to say, I would encourage him to add those roads to OpenStreetMaps and Google Maps. Both accept user submissions. I don't remember what OpenStreetMaps tool is, but Google's is mapmaker.google.com. By adding this info into the public maps, it benefits everyone.
Good point. And I have been talking with DeBear a little bit about this, and we're actually scheduling a show to talk about this. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more into how to submit your stuff to various mapping tools. And if anyone is interested, we did do a show on OpenStreetMaps way back beta 14. So that gives you a good overview of what OpenStreetMaps is all about.
And it allows you to put your own cat on the map.
Your own cat, huh?
Do you know about that? The Google Map cat?
No,
Somebody
I don't think I
submitted a path, and they kept building it, and it turned out as a cat. I'll see if I can find it here, and we'll share the picture.
Oh, that would be great. All right, so let's move on to GCDroid and June 17. Well, Stefan of June 17 is the author of that. So let's start off by getting a little bit of an overview on what GCDroid is.
Well, basically, I try to create a tool that it basically combines everything that I liked in all the other apps that are out there. So, yeah, initially I looked at CGeo, and it has a few things that I really like, a few things that I really don't like. The same goes for the official geocaching app or GDAC. So basically, I try to kind of collect all the ideas from these other tools and create something that has everything that I need. That was the initial idea. So it was never meant really to be released to the public. It was really just for me to get a tool that I like to use.
Yeah, some of those are the best way to get started. Now, before we move on to some email from someone who heard we were doing a show with you, I think, Chris, you found that cat map?
I sure did. Here. And so somebody went through and submitted a picture of a cat, be it rudimentary. And, you know, they've added the eyes and the smile and the collar all later on. But it was somebody who just walked through the area there, created the trail, and made a cat.
Someone has a little bit too much time to go gaming the system, I think.
Recently, Google just deleted that off of their official maps. So
this is a problem with crowdsourced maps. I mean, good on them for going through all that effort, but yeah,
exactly.
You do have to be a little careful with crowdsourced map data.
As far as I know, that was the only one that was made that way. So, going on to email, because this is a show that's run off of your comments, the GeoGearHeads. When you email, when you post on social media, or even call in, we're going to use that in future shows, and you help shape the show. So, Sloth96 wrote in via email. You have the pleasure of having the author of GCDroid on your show this week. I want to make sure you are aware of some cool features to highlight. The FTF search capabilities under live search. This is an amazing feature that allows one to pull up all the nearby FTF opportunities. It's much easier than setting up all the notifications, and is great for being an FTF town while traveling. Interesting. The flashlight. Night caching rocks. Need I say more? Quick switch databases makes it easy to chase challenges and travel. Queuing and logging, or queuing of log and field notes when offline. It's great not to have to think about it. He also goes on to say, GCDroid plugin, phone a friend. Oh my goodness, that is useful. I'm really looking forward to this upcoming show.
All right, so let's start off with that FTF search capability, because that does really sound intriguing. How does that one work?
Yeah, basically, since we like going for FTFs, that was, I think, one of the first features that I actually ever added to the tool. So basically what it does is it uses your pocket query feature and creates a pocket query with all the unfound caches and pulls that basically from geocaching.com. So it really only shows caches that never have been logged or found by anybody. And it comes in really handy, especially if more than one cache gets published. If it's only one, you just click on the link and you pretty much open it from there. But let's say there are 20 caches around you and you want to know, is there maybe a cluster of a few, or how far are they away? I just pull out the app, click on FTF search, and it just pulls within I think, 100 miles radius, the closest 50 caches that are not found, and shows it on the map or in a list.
So very much like what we were talking about a few weeks ago with the pocket queries in using the use it as a search capability to do things like those FTFs. So it doesn't do the notifications. It just, when you get a notification, then you can go and do the FTF search and find out what else is available.
Right, exactly. So I just used it today for one cache. There were like 4 or 5 caches that came out. I just pulled out the phone. So, there was one like 2 miles away from where I was, and off I went.
Yeah, that's one of the problems that I have with getting the notifications has been you go out there looking for a specific cache. So as you start running around, you'll get the notification for a bunch of others. So I can see where this would be so much easier. Yeah, quite often I'll do just my pocket query method that we talked about before and get those answers quickly and see what's coming up. But this would make it a lot easier. The next one, though, that he mentioned was a flashlight. This seems a little bit obvious, so maybe we should do too much time on it, but give us a little bit of a story on how that one works.
Well, basically, I just noticed that it just comes in handy to have a flashlight, and I got annoyed by having to switch the app and go to a real flashlight app to actually turn on a flashlight. So I thought, well, why not have the flashlight built into the app? So on the main screen, simple, just a button saying flashlight, turns on the camera flash, and yeah, that's basically it. Pretty simple.
Yeah, nice handy tool, though, especially when your batteries on the flashlight that you brought, because we're good cachers, we bring our flashlights everywhere, don't we? Happen to die.
What about a strobe feature? So when you're at night, it's just, a really annoying strobe effect. Oh, sorry. No, I only pose real useful tips. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this might be an actual feature if you built a night cache that needed that strobe effect to activate.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So there you go. It might be a special 5.5 cache that requires the GCDroid app with this new strobe feature that I'm sure Stefan's going to go out and build this right after the show.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to consider that.
So how can I make a night cache with the strobe effect? Now you've lost me for the rest of the show. I'm thinking now.
Yeah, you're going to be off looking at Arduino modules and accessories now. So, all right, so let's move on to the quick switch databases. I've worked with the Listen Geosphere, which is my go-to app on iOS, and I kind of get the feeling that this is largely like that is, but not quite the same.
I guess it's pretty similar. So basically what it does, like in GSEG, which many Windows people use, where you have multiple databases, it basically is exactly the same thing. So let's say you could create a database for easy caches. You could have one with your own caches or anything like that. So you could have it pre-filtered, preloaded, and while you're out there, you can just switch basically between these offline databases. So you don't have to search for new caches, but you have preloaded different sets, which are basically already filtered down to what you want.
Excellent. So yeah, it makes it quicker and easier. Gives you a lot of the. I'm thinking especially like he was mentioning for the challenge caches. Take like all the challenge caches that you solved or all of the puzzle caches you solved and drop them into a database. So if you wanted to spend that day just hitting all of those caches that you're qualified for or that you've solved, it'd be a great way to just load all those in and go for them.
Right, exactly, and that was basically also the idea behind, or like we use it for owner maintenance on our caches, so we have one database with our caches, and yeah, like that, we always have them handy whenever we need them.
Yeah, and I always love having my found caches available so that I know when I'm going to place a cache, what's in that area that I have to look out for, because I don't like not having instant access, because when you find that perfect spot, you have to know right then if there's a cache there.
Well, that would actually be a built-in feature in GCDroid. It has it's called hide search. So basically what it does is it looks for all caches you own, all that you found, everything that you didn't find, and disable caches, which usually it would ignore most of them, so it only pulls up the ones that you really can find. But in that specific mode, it really pulls up everything that's supposed to be on the map.
Does it actually keep track of the waypoints, the additional waypoints for the multi-caches and puzzles, though?
It's loading them, but it wouldn't display it initially on the map. Because
Okay.
for some caches, it might just like overcrowd the map.
Right. So if you've already found it, it will still have those waypoints if you've dropped them in.
Yeah. So like,
Excellent.
what I used to do, or like what we like to do, is we like to correct the coordinates on on geocaching.com, and it actually pulls these corrected coordinates and displays the cache at the actual corrected coordinates for puzzles.
Okay, so it's not storing those midpoints in the app itself then?
It also stores the
Okay.
the additional waypoints if you have more than one.
Yeah, because that's what I've started doing, because I realized that I have more than a couple of caches that have been denied because I was too close to stage 2 of this other cache that I'd found 5 years ago. So now I have to go and keep track of all of those waypoints, and I just keep them all in the database for whenever I need them. And then let's move on to queuing and logging of field notes.
Yeah, so basically, GCDroid keeps track of all your logs and field notes, even if you're offline. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm offline now, I just lost a log or anything like that. So you can either kind of like, let's do a quick log, which is you just tap the log button and say found it. So all it would then do in that case, create a found it field note with a predefined signature, or it has a predefined didn't find that you can choose, and it will just store that until you get online, and it will automatically upload them as soon as you're online. So you usually don't even have to do that manual anymore.
Yeah, and the offline capabilities of GCDroid look to be really spectacular. We haven't gotten into that yet, and we'll touch on that in a little while. But first, we've got to get into another plugin that sounds really cool. But yeah, the offline stuff is great too, because I don't like posting online even when I do have a connection. I like to keep the stuff offline, go through, tweak it, and then upload it when I'm done to make sure that I didn't like fat finger something and say something I shouldn't have put in there.
Right.
Or if you're traveling and you don't want to post your finds right away.
I was just going to say that, and it's always nice to not advertise that, hey, I'm away from home for the next week. So the next one is actually probably what I find most intriguing about GCDroid right now, which is that Phone a Friend plugin.
Yeah, so basically what it does is you can either tap on the cache owner's name or on any log that you have in GCDroid, and it will basically look in your contacts for the exact cacher's name, and we'll pull up that contact. So if you have people stored with their geocaching name, you can just tap on the log or just tap on the cache owner's name. It's going to pull up that person. You can send them a text message, call them, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's seriously cool.
Yeah, that's one that I would overuse.
It seems like the guys from CG also like it, because shortly after I released my version, I think 4 weeks later they released a version of that too.
Complete coincidence.
I wasn't aware that would come out. Actually, I think I did see that in the release notes, and I just completely glossed over it. All right, we got a couple of features here real quick, or questions, I should say. One is from Limax, and I think I already know the answer to it, but he wants to know when the GCDroid app is going to be available for iPhone.
Yeah, I guess the answer is probably never. Since I would have to buy a Mac, which I don't own, and I would need to buy iPhones, which we don't own, and it's a lot of work. It's literally thousands of hours that went into the app so far, and I don't think my wife would be too happy if I do that again.
No, and I'm sure there's no shared code base or anything at this point. You'd have to pretty much re-engineer the app to be...
Yeah, it would be basically started from scratch.
Yeah, so I guess the answer is when you get another developer.
Yes. Once more people buy it and I can actually pay somebody to do it, we can talk about it.
And then a fish out of water really says that she wants the Phone a Friend feature. I know that she's also a Geosphere user as well on iOS, so I'm not really sure why she's listening to this show. Maybe just because she's local.
Because she loves the GeoGearHeads, Daryl.
Well, and I was going to say, and she's waiting for that question at the end of the show.
Exactly.
But she also said that she loves that feature. I actually made a query for 1-1s last winter when I was trying to maintain a cache a day streak during Snowmageddon 2014. So I'm assuming that she was referring to the multiple databases, or in her case, those lists. And yeah, that really does help. Really manage what you're doing, is to kind of pre-filter even before you get out there.
Right.
And then Lisa from Cash Advance also wrote in that she loves this tool. The Phone a Friend or the Phone a Cacher love it. So thank you for that. Now let's get into some of the other features, and specifically, I really want to touch on the offline maps because this is something that really doesn't have a whole lot of support, and for people using these new inexpensive tablets, and I've seen the Nexus 7 tablets refurb for like $50 even, and what a great tool to give to like the kids or anyone really who wants just a cheap offline device, because it's going to have the maps. With something like that, you can download it, and it has the GPS, so you can do everything offline.
Right, and that's basically what we do when we go caching. Like, we have a Karman for a Nexus 7, and we basically use that for offline geocaching wherever we go. So that's kind of like a really handy thing. And yeah, I think offline maps, that was probably one of the most requested features. Like, the initial version of GCDroid did not have that. And especially people from Germany requested that feature, since data is not as fast in Germany as it is here, and people have limits on data. So everybody was basically complaining that they need offline maps. So I added that about half a year ago, maybe. And just in the latest releases, I actually added a download manager, which I think is on the screen right now. So basically, the idea for that is, like, in the first version, people had to go to different websites which host OpenStreetMaps or MapsForge maps, and they had to download it, put it on the phone in a specific folder, and it was kind of a little more painful to get that all set up. So I thought, well, why not offer people a built-in feature to actually download the maps? And that's what you can do now. So you can basically download worldwide maps from any country in the world. Depending on the country, it has really detailed maps for each state. And you just select that and download it directly within the app. So you don't have to worry about copying files or setting it up right.
And it does different types of maps too, so it's not just street maps, correct?
Yeah, so it basically has two things. It has the offline maps, which is really just the street vector maps, which are insanely fast, actually. And you can basically zoom them in indefinitely. You can rotate them, and they look pretty neat. In addition to that, it does the normal satellite maps, which is basically online tile maps. So everything that's like Google Street Maps or Bing satellite maps, that's all online. So far that is not offline. But I'm actually working on a feature for that to also support that offline, that you can pre-download satellite maps, which comes in handy.
Nice. Yeah, I'm one of those cachers now where I've been spoiled by the satellite maps, especially when I'm trying to drive to a location. I find those satellite maps are so useful because you'll see this pin in the middle of a field that doesn't mean anything on the street maps. You switch over to the satellite maps, it's like, oh, well, there's this dirt drive that goes right there, and it's accessible from this side, but not from either of these other three sides, which is where the GPS wants me to go. So yeah, I know I have to go all the way around to find it, and it saves me a boatload of time, especially when those are like mile-wide blocks.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one of the other things that you do is direct access to Dropbox, and that's something that we've talked about on the show, is how Dropbox is a really great solution for doing things like moving around the GPX files, and so many of our listeners have written in talking about how they do everything through Dropbox, and so that they can get it on every device. So this is going to be a great feature for just about anyone who uses Dropbox.
Yeah, so basically for that, the idea was, since GCDroid supports GSAC databases right out of the box, but well, how do I get a database of, I don't know, 80 megabyte onto my phone? And so I thought, for most people, the easiest would be you just export either a GPX file or your GSAC database, and you just throw that right into Dropbox on your PC, and then GCDroid will just open a file list of your Dropbox within the app. You pick whatever you want, and it automatically imports it into the right location. So again, you don't have to worry about what's the right folder, where do I have to copy the file, where does it go to make it actually work, just to make it easy for new people.
Nice. Now, you do have things like the live map that everyone's really interested in getting. And I understand that you are actually using the official Groundspeak live API. You're not doing scraping or anything, so you don't have to worry about getting busted and shut down like a lot of the CGO users did. What was that, about 2-3 years ago now?
Yeah, exactly. So that also was one of the reasons why I wanted to create my own app, since I thought, well, the way CGO does it, it is actually pretty slow, at least for me, having found most of the caches in the area. It usually tends to be really slow if I pull up their map, because it's populating all the caches I already have found until it figures out, oh, that one has been found, that one has been found, and it basically clears out the map. So using the Live API or the Groundspeak API makes it really easy for me to really just pull the data that users need, and it saves a lot of bandwidth, which means it's also really, really fast. And it's officially supported by Groundspeak, which I think is good in the long run.
Well, and I think you can do some live searching and filtering that way as well now too, correct?
Yes, so through that API, I have access to things like bookmark lists, or I can query for only 1.1 caches, or I can search for challenge caches or things like that.
So talk a little bit, if you would, about the filtering and how that works.
Yeah, so the filtering, basically there are two options. One is if you only want to load certain caches from the live map, you can do a advanced search using the same filter that you see on the screen right now. Or if you already have a huge database, and let's say you just want to find 1.1 traditionals, you basically just would open that filter, you just tap on the cache icons, you slide over your difficulty terrain slider to what you want, and say apply, which then basically just filters out all the other caches that are actually in that database. And it does that in list form and also on the map. And it's actually synchronized. So if you switch between your list and the map, it applies the same filter. So if you quickly want to see where is that cache with name ABC, you can punch in that name, click apply, and you will only get caches that actually match that, which makes it really, really easy to find them.
Yeah, so that's how you could do the like just show me all of the grandfathered caches. You could do, show me the webcam, show me the virtual caches and that kind of stuff. Or, for like Fish Out of Water, who's said that she's actually here to support you. That's why she's watching the show. But she could do her all 1.1 caches right through there, nice and easy, and doesn't have to go and prep. Though it is probably a lot easier to prep it beforehand and then load it in.
Right. If you prepare it beforehand, you might be able to apply a more powerful filter using GSeg, like, I don't know, filter certain cache types and then mark them, add some more to them. So you can be really, really creative. But if you just have a huge database and you just want to get rid of all the puzzles because you haven't solved them, it's an easy way to just filter them out.
Now, you did mention the bookmark list, the public bookmark list. It can also be downloaded. And that's something that we've mentioned a few times, using the bookmark list for managing stuff. So I'm just curious what you actually use those bookmark lists for.
Yeah, we actually, one thing that we recently started using the bookmark list for is like tracking first to finds, tracking own caches. Since Groundspeak doesn't have officially a way of creating a pocket query of all your of all your own caches. If they're within 50 miles, you can do that. If you have less than 1,000 caches and it's within 50 miles, you can just create a pocket query. But we actually own caches here in Michigan, in Alabama, in Germany, and in Nevada. So there would be no way of really having one big pocket query to get all of our own caches. So by creating a bookmark list of all our own caches, I can use that and actually pull that bookmark list into GCDroid and basically have direct access like that.
Excellent. All right, and the last thing I think we really need to hit on is a customized log templates, because this is one of the things I find most useful about Geosphere that's missing from so many of the other apps. And fortunately, like CacheSense has started adding it as well now, where you can create those templates that you just pick and it auto-populates some of those messages.
Yeah, so basically, the way I set it up is you have two choices. You can either create templates for field notes, which then basically will just submit directly a pre-populated field note. The other option is you can also create it as a live log, and you can basically choose that when you create that template. So you can pick, is it supposed to be a field note or is it supposed to be an actual log? So for example, if we get a first to find, I like to log the actual find in order. So I usually will not log a find just when I'm out in the field. But what I do for other people, I post a note saying first to find. So I just created a template saying FTF, log later, set it as type of a note, set it as an actual log. So whenever I get a first to find, I just tap on that button and it posts a live log saying first to find. So it just makes it really easy to have some of these features in there without like too much typing.
Yeah, very interesting. I like the option of anytime you have something like that, it's going to be a live log. Now, one thing that I've been doing with Geosphere, and we didn't really talk about this beforehand, so I'm not sure how this works, is for the things like the Earth caches where they want that photo, or the virtual caches. I set those up as an offline log that gets uploaded as a live log later with a photo, and I don't know if GCDroid actually does the photos or not in the logs.
As of now, it doesn't. It's actually on the list of my things that I need to do. People requested that they basically can upload pictures immediately. So far, it doesn't work.
All right. Hey, so it's coming. That's
yes,
the important
it
thing.
is.
And for people who don't know, this is a free app to try out, and then I understand it actually works forever in a limited mode, and then if you want to, you can pay to upgrade.
Yeah, so basically for the first 30 days, you get all the features for free. After that, some of the advanced features are basically blocked out. Like if you want to still have access to your Dropbox, that will be blocked out. The FTF search, if you still want to use that, that will be blocked. All the basic features will definitely work. You have a live map. You can log your caches. You don't get the templates. So it's kind of like trying to animate people to support the development for a few bucks. But in general, you still can use the app and do really everything you really need to do in the field.
Yeah, I don't happen to have that handy, but I think that was $2 is the cost of the app itself.
It's actually $4.99.
$4.99.
Yes.
Okay, so it's still a lot cheaper than most of the other apps out there, and it's I haven't had a chance really to play with it. The first I heard about this was at the Belle Isle event that we were at. Was it last year or the year before? Actually,
it was this year.
It was this year. Okay, so that's the first time I had a chance to look at it at all. I downloaded it and then looked at it a little bit. You've done so much to it since, and unfortunately, I've yet to get a chance to dig in and play with the new version because I really, really want to. So yeah, I really liked what I saw of it, and it's gotten even better since then. So I really want to play with it a lot more.
You definitely should.
Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to check in on before we get to the last of the live Q&A stuff?
Oh, I'm loving this. I mean, now I've got to pull out my Nexus 7 and see what I can do with this.
And speaking of which, that's the comment we have in the live Q&A that I wanted to hit on from Limax. He's saying that he should find an inexpensive Nexus 7, and I think he's going to if he does, run out here and get GCDroid for it.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, I don't regret having an X7 and buying that for the car. I always say it's the best thing I ever can have in a car for geocaching, because you really have a nice big map. If we drive to Canada or if we're out in Germany, we have the offline maps, so we don't have to worry about, oh, where's the roads, where are the caches. I can pre-download all my caches, so I'm really independent wherever I am, so it's really, really convenient for that.
Absolutely. You think of it as like one of the big sat navs for the car. I love having those in the car. On the dashboard, the Nexus 7 is like just as big as I want to go. Even the iPad Mini is a little too big for me on the dashboard. So I like using the Nexus 7 with CacheSense, in part because CacheSense does Munsies, and I used to put that up and see, just drive around looking for all this stuff. But I like the offline maps so much, I think I'm going to switch to GCDroid for that.
And since you mentioned Munsies, it doesn't support that, but some of the more geocaching related things, it actually supports lab caches. So if you are at an event which has lab caches, you can actually pull the GPX files from the lab cache site, and it will actually import that and show them on the map.
Oh, very cool.
You can't log them since there's no real support for that, but at least you can really look at them and go to where you have to be.
Nice. I do like that. And I saw something, I think, about it supporting waymarking as well.
Yes, so it does not connect to the waymarking site. I was asking Groundspeak for actual support for an API, which doesn't exist as of now. But a couple of people emailed me that they actually have their waymarks in a GPX file or in GSAC. So if you do that, it actually pulls that from GSAC and displays it correctly, like with a correct icon.
Excellent. So that's something that a lot of those waymarkers, not that there's a lot of the waymarkers, but a lot of those waymarkers have been looking for. All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for joining us. Did you have any last moment things that you want to share? Anything that we might have missed?
Daryl, did you ask him for any last words?
No, I didn't ask him for his last words. I was hoping that wasn't going to be necessary, but you never know when the Googles are going to cut out and they just kill us.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. It definitely was a lot of fun. I think I covered the main features, and I hope people give it a try. And if there are any issues, don't rate it a 1-star. Email me first, and usually I'm able to help out and figure out what's wrong.
Yeah, a good general tip with any app. If you have a problem, contact the developer first. Don't just go into the app stores and drop nasty ratings.
Yeah.
All right. Now, it's that time, everyone. Get an email ready with the title Question 154 and address it to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. Include your geocaching.com screen name in the body and tell us how you listen to or watch the GeoGearheads shows. We'd like to know, I'd like to know if you're using your phone or computer, maybe watching live or downloading later, maybe even both. Have that to us at geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com by 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on December 10th. That's 6 p.m. Pacific or 2 a.m. on December 11th UTC. And you could be entered into the drawing for another prize from coinsandpins.com. And if you'd like to grab something from coinsandpins.com by the end of the year, you can get a 10% off code, or you can get 10% off using our code Maniacs. So that's 10% off using our coupon code Maniacs.
Daryl, I always watch live, so can I go ahead and answer and get a chance to win one of those great coinsandpins.com coins?
Well, you could answer, but you'll be disqualified because, you're kind of an employee, even though we don't get paid for this.
Yeah. Wait a minute, we could? Wait, anyway, upcoming shows. Daryl does a fabulous job of scheduling guests, like Stefan right here today, and others in upcoming shows. So, December 11th, that's just next week, guys. It's not that far away. We're going to be talking about caching nomads, and we'll have our friends Peanuts or Pretzels on. December 18th is Randomized 30, or Triple X, as I like to say. And right after that, we're going to have special bonus with Walt and Scott, or Scott and Walt. It depends whoever shows up first. Join us for that episode. That's Randomized 30 for the special live prize drawings. Daryl's promised me he's going to have live things to give away. So there we go. Might be hamsters, might be goldfish. You just never really know. And January 1st, we're talking about 3D printed caches again with Antaeus. January 8th, hiking tips for cachers with the Seer. So put these shows on your calendars. You're not going to want to miss one of these great GeoGearhead shows.
Check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearheads, including show notes for this and all our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniacs shows. GeoGearheads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show is copyright 2014 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cachemaniacs.